Thank you for being with us, Baba, and everyone else. So we're going to continue with about half hour or so, 40 minutes of commentary on the Ashtavakra Gita, a text that is ancient and it deals with the oneness of everything. We are going to continue with chapter 7. Baba, this chapter, it says Janaka asks. He's asking his guru, Ashtavakra. So is he asking for confirmation in this chapter? Is that what Janaka is doing?
What is written? What is he asking?
Well, the chat, we'll go through I'll read the first 5 verses, and then we can come back and ask you to comment on it. But it just, I'm just wondering if that was the nature of this conversation between the two of them. That it says, Janaka asks, he's talking to his guru. So yet he's making statements, and it sounds like he's asking for confirmation of these experiences, or that what he's experiencing or believing is true. Correct? Is that the nature of this?
Probably, as Ashtavakra went on teaching, so he must have focused on the self, on the consciousness of existence. So whatever experiences were coming, so he wanted to get it confirmed. So that means he was on the higher level already.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Baba, I'll read the first the 5 verses, and then we'll come back and comment, ask for your commentary. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So, chapter 7. In me, the vast, boundless ocean, the ships of the universe moves, driven here and there by the wind of its own inherent nature. I am completely unaffected by it. 2. In me, as the limitless ocean, the waves of the universe arise and vanish by themselves. I neither gain nor lose by it. 3. In me, like an infinite ocean, the imagined universe of definitions and names appears to arise, but I abide alone, apart from it, completely at peace and without form. 4. The self is not in the objects, nor are the objects in the self. Infinite and pure, the self is free of attachment or desire, in complete peace. I abide only in that. 5. What a great marvel! I'm actually pure consciousness. The universe is just like a magic show of illusion. So how and where can there be ideas of rejecting or accepting? Okay, Baba. So, in the first question, if you kind of break it down, it says, in me, the universe moves, driven by its own inherent nature. I'm completely unaffected by it.
See, probably by then he was already practicing very deep meditations. As he went on listening to other masters' teachings also, when Ashtavakra came also, though he had not achieved the Nirvikalp Samadhi or a total self-realization, but he was very deeply into meditation, quietening the mind, and he was experiencing. So as Ashtavakra also went on talking about it, it was like endorsing his experiences, means Janaka's experiences. So that's when Janaka gains more confidence and talks about it. Just like if we take the clue of the mind, I always try to tell gradually, mind is nothing but you, yourself. you are thinking. That's why all thoughts are within you, and you are not, the thoughts are not beyond you. But whatever has appeared is simply an illusion, because it doesn't affect, it doesn't glues actually to the mind. Simply an appearance value is there. The moment you become quiet, they will all disappear. So that's what he is trying to explain here. In me only, this ocean of me, he's giving an example of ocean. So everything appears and everything disappears.
So there's the me, which means the pure consciousness, right? And then driven by the wind of its own nature. So, Baba, what makes the absolute or pure consciousness manifest into mind? What makes mind manifest into activity, into creation?
Simply in illusion, in materiality, nothing can really happen. The very formation of the mind is like that. But it imagines, so an imagined appearance happens, and then that will disappear also. So when it appears, if we consider it as a reality and get involved with that one, then that picture continues. And we forget that at all times we are simply imagining, and there is really no such picture. But we imagine as if there is a picture, as if there is a personality, as if there is an incident, a story that is happening. Because the mind is totally pure consciousness. That's what he is trying to tell. Like the space and matter also, if you observe, nothing can glue to one another. The space cannot glue into matter, matter cannot glue into space. It appears to be the matter is in the space, and sometimes the space appears to be engulfing the matter, but both are free to itself. Only bondage is that the matter cannot go beyond space. It has to be playing within the space. But yet, space is more free because space is beyond the matter. So that is how he is trying to explain here.
Baba, is mind what is responsible for things appearing in consciousness?
This is a very tricky, mind-boggling thing. The combination of mind and brain that I have been trying to tell, also I admit that it may not be conclusive. With the help of the brain only, the things gets decodified and a thought process or a vision appears. Then that is caught by the mind and registers in itself as if it is a reality, whereas it is not a reality. For now, this is what it appears to be. Final answer may not be available at all. It could be simply mind-boggling. That's why a seeker need to simply proceed to quieten the mind instead of getting involved into this.
Well, what is the nature of manifest existence?
Simply appearance. That is all.
Those appearances, are always changing. They're coming and going.
Yes.
So is that also
It
the
is
nature?
not permanent.
Right. So impermanence means change.
Yes. So that's what we try to emphasize. If you don't want to accept other truths, at least you all accept it is impermanent. It has only appearance value, no existence value. That means it doesn't really exist. Instead of telling it doesn't exist, then people may be put off. When it is, I am able to see this, how can you say it doesn't exist? According to them, existence means whatever the appearance is there, in appearance it exists. But what the existence I am talking, in reality it does not exist. It appears to be existing, but in reality it does not really exist.
Baba, what's the nature of consciousness? It,
To remain quiet in itself.
and the nature, it seems then the nature of consciousness is to remain quiet, but the nature of the mind is to express itself, to manifest itself.
It registers and considers as if it is expressing. So when it expresses, the mistake it makes is there. Whatever it expresses, it considers that to be a fundamental reality. So that's where it gets involved further.
Later on in this chapter, you say that the absolute manifests for the sake of play. Other yogis have said that it's simply its nature, and others have said expansion of happiness or bliss is the purpose of creation. But so just that coming back to the why creation comes into existence from the absolute. If it's full and complete in itself, why does it come into existence? Why does it?
For this, actually, there is no conclusive answer. Only I have given perhaps. Like when the mind is quiet, when you would have taken sufficient rest, sound sleep, in the morning when you get up, it is fresh and quiet. You are enjoying peace. Suddenly, unknown to you, your mind imagines. In the beginning, it tries to imagine pleasant things and it wants to be pleasant. It doesn't want to give up the happiness. But as the day passes by, it gets involved into unhappiness, happiness, both imaginations. It has the ability to be creative. So that ability is just if you imagine and then become quiet, that imagination disappears, so you won't get involved. You are just imagine and it is insignificant for you because it was only in your imagination, not in any other way into any reality at all. But when it gets involved into that imagined thing, then that mind gets carried away. That's how it starts thinking that the creation has come into existence, whereas actually the creation has not come into existence at all.
Baba, it seems that we're living our life in the world, but we're actually kind of living our life in our mind.
Exactly. It is the mind which is experiencing as if it is being born, as if it is living, as if it's going to die, any such thing. So whatever mind experiences, the world appears to be so. Whatever mind imagines, it experiences the same. If it imagines happiness, it experiences the happiness. If it imagines unhappiness, it experiences unhappiness.
When we experience something, when we get a couple years old, we start to have a sense of I and start to have memories, experiences. When we experience something, does the object is actually there, but our interpretation, is just an imagination about that object and experience that's happening?
Actually, we don't know whether the object is there because we are also another object. This object is seeing that object. So this object is considering that object is there. That is what is appearing. But it need not be true just for a while. I'm not talking conclusively, but it's possible that both do not exist at all because the mind is considering this body is also existing, and whatever this body through the eyes is seeing, that is also existing. So when you consider firmly it is existing, then it is existing for you. Your mind refuses to accept if I tell ki it doesn't exist.
And so it's a cooperation between the brain, the physical organism, and the mind that kind of fabricates the whole
Yes.
illusion.
Exactly. So when that happens, no amount of explanation will satisfy anybody. They will say, "Okay, I can see this world. How can you say it doesn't exist?" So that's why I don't go into that point at all. Simply I try to teach it is impermanent at least.
So only through
First
the
understand it's impermanent. So when you meditate slowly, one day you will realize that it doesn't exist also.
because you can withdraw all imaginations, all thoughts. You can stop all that, and yet you still remain as the consciousness.
Yes.
And then that illusion, the Maya, is broken.
That's how it happens.
Okay. All right, Baba, I'll read on. So, I love verse 5. What a great marvel. I am actually pure consciousness.
Yeah, it's really hair-raising experience. Amazing. I keep talking about the consciousness of existence amongst the millions of thoughts which comes and goes. It may sometimes give an excitement to you. People call it, I had a beautiful experience in meditation. But the day you experience that consciousness of existence, that is amazing. You don't get to see in naked eyes, yet you are able to feel it. If you close the eyes and focus your consciousness on that, that means the consciousness is focusing on itself. That's when it is able to feel its existence. So now we are telling the object exists because through this physical body and the naked eyes, we are able to feel the existence of that another body. That's why we call that object exists. But how can we experience the existence of the consciousness of existence? Not through the naked eyes, not through sensory organs. Only when the mind becomes quiet, then that mind, which is now pure consciousness, it experiences actually itself. That is when it understands that this is what is the consciousness of existence. And that is really amazing, hair-raising experience. Now, then only it will accept, yeah, it exists. Until then, you don't feel that it exists at all. Just like if we look into the space, nobody will accept a supreme consciousness exists in the space, as the space, because they are unable to see it. Only the mind can see. Only the self can see the self.
And without consciousness, if you're not conscious, there's nothing there.
Nothing.
You can stop the thinking and all the imagery, but you can't make that consciousness go away because that's yourself.
Yes, exactly. That's what happens. But finally, when you totally merge, you are unable to experience your own existence because there is no relative existence there.
Mm-hmm.
Until you don't have a relative existence, It is very almost impossible to experience the existence. So
Baba,
in duality only you experience that you exist as the eternal entity.
do you rise above that, Baba, in Nirvikalpa Samadhi or Sahaja Samadhi?
Yeah, you rise above that. And that ends. Further explanation, no, not there.
Okay. Continue reading from the chapter 7. Your comments on the first 5 verses. After having observed keenly in meditation and become aware of the truth of one's own existence as the self, pure consciousness, the seeker, Janaka, exclaims thus, "In me, the vast ocean, the universe moves. This things appear and disappear, forced by its own nature. I remain unaffected, just like the ocean remains unaffected by the movement of a ship in it." In my opinion, only after long practice of meditation to keep watching the mind through the mind will the mind become quiet effortlessly and give up all its imaginations. Then one realizes and becomes aware of the fact that the self as pure consciousness is infinite and that nothing can touch or affect its existence. Baba, what's this watching the mind through the mind?
That's the real amazing experience, because there is no duality there. Yet it appears to be a dual thing experiencing another thing, whereas the same thing experiences itself. The mind and consciousness are all same. Self is also the same. That is where that consciousness of existence is there. When you begin with, when there are no other thoughts, all thoughts have come to an end, quietened mind, then that experiences the consciousness of existence. Because for long time, this consciousness as the mind had experienced the duality. So that warmth of duality is still there, though the duality has ended. Just like the electricity has been switched off, but the bulb is still hot, warm. Like this consciousness now, which has become pure consciousness, yet it experiences as if it is there and it is experiencing another consciousness of existence, whereas in truth there is no such duality, no such second thing experiencing the self. That self itself is experiencing. So that is the just before the merger, this experience happens. I hope I am putting in proper language what I am trying to convey.
I think, I mean, as well as you can understand something like that with words.
Yeah, it's very difficult to explain in words. Still, that's why I tried to do that one. It is the same one thing experiences itself, but it is feeling as if still it is a second thing, because just that duality has ended. It has become totally quietened.
Baba, it's kind of like it knows it exists, but without a thought of I exist.
Yes.
So there's a duality in the sense that there's a knowingness going on, but there's no second thing. It's just knowing itself.
So this is not actually knowing a thing. It's simply awares
Right.
that existence. So then it doesn't get into any definition, any sentence at all. It simply experiences. So thus the merger starts happening.
It's more subtle than knowing.
Yes, something like that.
Knowing's got more duality involved. Knower and known process.
Because you won't know ki what it is. There is no duality. So you cannot tell ki what is this. Now in duality, just for a clue, we can tell it is infinite, but it is even beyond infinite also.
Beyond all definition and imagination. So, Baba, this watching the mind through the mind, we have our attention, and what we put our attention on, we become aware of that. So in the case of meditation, we're trying to put our attention on to ourself or onto the consciousness. And is that what, so initially the mind watching through the mind, that means we're using that attention to watch itself? Is that what we're trying to accomplish here?
Yeah. See, that's why from the beginning itself, no target is being given, but you are just asked to watch in between eyebrows by focusing the attention of mind and sight. And the sight is there until it doesn't comes to the in between eyebrows. When it comes to in between eyebrows, I have tried to explain that vanishing point on a road. And that vanishing point comes, then it appears as if the road ends there in a picture. Here also, when both eyeballs come successfully and you are able to hold on to that one, so then that duality watching stops. Me and you both stops there. Then the mind has becomes purified totally. Then it watches itself. That is what is consciousness of existence.
Baba, that's just seeing. Then once that kind of, you get absorbed in that point, and there's seeing.
Seeing means, seeing always is imagined through the eyes only.
Oh,
Here the eyes doesn't see anymore. When it comes to in between eyebrows in the final point, when it is stabilized there, the vision stops. That is, it reaches the vanishing point and the vision stops. No further road is visible there. That type of thing happens. Somewhat like that, I am trying to give an example for sake of understanding. So there, no more vision is there. A vision happens only as long as both eyeballs keep moving. They give you one vision.
Baba, but
Whereas eyeballs are there, but for every object, it doesn't give you two pictures of the object. It gives you only one picture of the object.
Baba, as you become absorbed in Prakriti there, you continue, initially anyway, you're no longer seeing with the eyeballs, or because there's no face, there's no head,
Yes.
but you
Yes.
continue to see with your mind's eye.
If you are able to hold on to that, stabilized, that is when you are able to do tapas. Then watching through the eyes stops. Then the mind, which has become purified as a consciousness, experiences itself. Here I am turning the language. I am not using any seeing. It becomes aware of the consciousness of existence, but it experiences of itself.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Baba. So you say after watching the mind through the mind, then one realizes and becomes aware of the fact that the self is pure consciousness, is infinite, that nothing can touch or affect its existence, just like all the objects of the mind cannot affect the mind. which is revealed in deeper samadhi when all thoughts and visions vanish. These thoughts and visions had arisen from the mind and subside into the mind. One becomes aware of the fact that this mind is nothing but ourself. Once again, I reiterate that consciousness means wherever it gets applied, it gives you an awareness of an existence. When it gives up all imaginations, it's consciousness, and this consciousness gets applied to itself. When the consciousness is applied to itself, the seeker can become aware of that self as actually beyond all identities and definitions. Whatever term we try to give to define the self shall only be an imagined term which cannot be true. It's imagined only for the sake of communicating and understanding in this world. We have to use the nearest possible imagination to give a clue for the existence of the truth. That's how ancient masters called this truth as the Parabrahman, meaning it's beyond all imaginations. Once you realize this fact, you also realize that all the universe has arisen in this self simply by imagination, which means it is imagined for the sake of play only and is of no use to the self in any way. Though the universe is in the space, space is totally independent and not bound by the presence of the universe which is in it. Comment,
You
please.
see, no amount of imagination can give you that peace when it is quiet. The amount of peace that you enjoy when it is quiet. That means there all definitions, everything ends. As long as it is imagining, it is trying to give definition to the peace and happiness, but that never stabilized stands there. So that's when it goes on and on and on, elusive. But as the moment it becomes quiet, it becomes totally happy. Because the search ends, no more. Anything else is needed.
Yeah, Baba, it's so important as for meditation, as you realize that nothing that is appearing in the mind satisfies the mind. It's only when the mind stops is that it finds peace.
Yes, yeah, this is what I was trying to tell.
You say here the universe, galaxies, again more galaxies and so on. If you remove an object, you'll see that space is intact and remains unaffected. You realize that this space is the ultimate truth and pure consciousness. Of course, space is also a concept that exists within consciousness, but it's an example that you're trying to explain.
Yeah, the word space, so we have to use it to give a clue. That is why the divinity is beyond space actually. Means if I just talk a space is God, people may misunderstand. Because for space, they have a definition criteria in their mind which flashes to them. A wide place. Like that it comes. So simply a wide place means for them it is just nothing. Just nothing is God. But nothing also is imagination. Something also is imagination. The divinity is beyond both.
Nice. Well, it says this space is the source of consciousness of self-existence. Space is the source of consciousness of self-existence.
So that's what I tried to tell. Space is not just what we have imagined. It is the ultimate source of everything actually. That is the raw material from which the world has come into existence. Just like your mind is the raw material for all the things that is in your mind.
Says, when you go on observing or watching the mind keenly and remain quiet, you can realize this. Slowly, in due course of time, thoughts and visions disappear. Your attention shifts to the existence of consciousness, and you realize it's beyond any identification. That is the ultimate truth. Every term is used as an imagination for the sake of understanding and communication in this world.
Only useful for this world, but not for the actual truth.
Yeah, well, that could the reverse be said true, Baba, that the truth isn't actually useful for this world? It's which world do you want? Do you want the eternal world or the temporary world? The peaceful world or the turmoil world? This truth was addressed by ancient sages as tattva, meaning that. This also means it has substantial existence value, and it's the consciousness of existence that we consistently experience as our own existence. You're able to become consciously aware of that the universe is an imagined bubble of existence, which really has no existence value because it's temporary. It appears and will disappear. It's impermanent, but the self, capital S, is supreme and eternally exists, just like all the worlds in the mind are like a magician's show, which has no existence value, but only make-believe appearance. This universe is also a higher conscious magic show, which has no existence value. Baba, what's that? The universe is also a higher consciousness magic show with no existence value.
Yeah, just like a movie on the screen has only appearance value, no existence value. It's not going to exist there. Once the projector is stopped, the movie ends, finish. Only the screen is there.
Yeah, but for someone to know that, the watcher in the audience has to wake up first to realize that they're just watching a movie.
Yes. Yes.
So thank you for helping us do that. Would you like to take a few questions, Baba, before we?
Yeah, okay. Now we can take few questions. I hope people will ask as a follow-up of this topic as much as possible, that which has a sensible spirituality.
Okay, Baba, while everybody's getting their questions organized, I'd like to ask you a question. What's the difference between pure awareness and pure consciousness?
You are aware of the pure consciousness. In English language, that's what we have to understand. Consciousness is there, and you are aware, because your mind does not imagine anything else about that consciousness. Thus, it doesn't define. It is simply aware.
So, which will exist after the finishing of the body, mind? Pure awareness or pure consciousness?
Pure consciousness.
So awareness requires mind?
Yes. When it becomes totally quiet, so who is aware of what? That ends there.
And what's the difference between pure consciousness and consciousness of existence? Because there it seems like there's an awareness involved.
They both are same. As long as the consciousness is functioning as the mind, there for sake of understanding, we use the consciousness of existence. Because in the body, you always have the feeling, I am existing, I am here. So that is why this sentence is used, consciousness of existence.
I understand. That's great, Baba. Thank you.
Pranam Babaji.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've given the example of if a person is looking in a mirror, the image in the mirror can't see the person. Is the person in that example consciousness and the image in the mirror is the mind?
Yes, you can consider like that for understanding. As long as it is mind, it cannot see the consciousness. It itself is the consciousness.
Thank you, Babaji.
Pranam Babaji, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hello, good to see you. So I had a question. I'm asking why the mind constantly tests itself, puts us through, tribulations and trials instead of just allowing us to stay peaceful, and throughout life. Why do we have to constantly go through ups and downs?
So it has lost control over itself in imagining things. So that is how it has allowed the mind to go mad and berserk as it likes. So it goes into happiness, unhappiness, good, bad, trouble, comfort, everything. It goes on and on and on. So that is why it has happened. To stop this only, we have to do sadhana so that we stop the mind entirely. Here, when we want to get rid of it, we need to get rid of both good and bad of this world. Only then the mind will become quiet. If we say, okay, I want to have the good of this world, I cannot sacrifice, then it doesn't happen. So mind will get involved into the bad also. So totally you have to be ready to get rid of both good and bad of this world. Rise above the duality.
I see, I understand. Thank you. That's very pertinent to my question. Thank you, Babaji.
Pranams Babaji. In Sanskrit, there is a shloka which states like Tadeva Lagnam Sudinam Tadeva, which essentially translates as that alone is the best time, that alone is the best day where the mind thinks of the feet of Lord Vishnu. So in reality, there's no such specific as auspicious time or inauspicious time. And what we had to develop is that come above and beyond the levels of duality, because the Lord of the universe has not created a good time or an inauspicious time. Is that the essence?
Yeah, exactly. Very true. Because if the mind has inclination, if it is to lose the confidence, then it wants an auspicious time. Otherwise, every moment is auspicious. Every moment that you can remember the divine, every moment that you act upon. So, also human beings, we are afraid of failures.
Right.
Every time we step, we want a total success. That's when we try to look for an auspicious time so that we don't have a failure.
Right.
Otherwise, both are equally same for us. There is no auspicious or inauspicious any such thing.
Thanks, Babaji. Pranams.
Baba, there was a question in the chat, and it is, why would one come back to the body after the merger has happened?
If there is an ordainment from the divinity that such a person would come back as a yogi and try to create more awareness amongst the people who have forgotten themselves. Other than that, there is no other reason.
Well, I have just a question as a follow-up to something that you said, and I'm trying to phrase it like you did, but I heard you say that just before the merger, there's a warmth of duality that is experienced before you merge, like the bulb, you were saying the heat of the bulb. I just wanted clarification of that. Is that when you actually experience the one single self? Did you experience Swamiji as the one self? Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. That's when you still experience yourself as that one single self and as that all pervadedness. After that, the final merger happens, there is no other experience because no relative existence is there and only one single self is there. So then it has nothing to experience.
So if, part of my inspiration in sadhana is to really understand that one single self exists. And so there's still an attachment there. I know it's driven by a personal thing of wanting to know my parents as that one single self or the people that I love. So that's driven by personality and attachment, but is there a possibility in sadhana to experience that more before that merger, to just really have an understanding of one consciousness, one manifestation?
Yeah, if you keenly observe and want to know, this thought enables you to actually observe just before the merger.
Okay.
Every time before going to Samadhi, you have this thought as a wish. This thought enables you to experience that truth.
But will that thought bind me and keep me from going into the merger, right?
No,
No.
because you would have got rid of all other thoughts.
Okay.
So there is nothing to bind you. So this is just an observation. You want to see that single self. So then the single self sucks you into itself.
Thank you, Baba.
Does it mean the feet of Lord Vishnu or any? I mean, I don't see Lord Vishnu as a body. So what is that concept?
Whenever symbolically, even if that feet is used, you see, actual philosophy is totally different. Vishnu is the one single self that exists, and there is no duality of like things like auspicious or inauspicious. So then the priests have adopted for them to chant. If you adopt that Vishnu as divinity, that is the real auspicious thing. If you remember that Vishnu, that is the real auspicious thing. So that's what they try to interpret into the mantra. That is symbolically said, that is all. There is no physical body.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, pranams, Babaji. One thing that I still find very interesting and hard to understand fully is this concept of the external world and sort of the internal mind. And I know, like, for example, Ramana Maharshi talks about how when you get up in the morning, the world sits firmly in the mind. And it's interesting because it's like the world is there, whether you like it or not, and then the mind runs as its previous habits, and you're stuck on those same habits. So I guess when you are withdrawing the mind, or is the external world and what's happening also part of the mind, the same mind that is the inner mind, but a higher potency that is withdrawn?
External world is there as long as the internal mind imagines about the external world. Once that imagination ends, external world also ends. So there is nothing to worry for you.
Okay, thank you.
Maharaj Pranam, can you hear me?
Yes.
My question is, as you mentioned a question before, this gentleman, person who asked that on the old time, to concentrate our mind in the Parabrahm, they give us the concept of Mahavishnu. So Mahavishnu, Bhagwan Shiv, Bhagwan Brahma, they don't exist. Only Parabrahm exists, and we to concentrate our mind on different concept of Parabrahm, we internalize or we manifest these entities in this form itself. So there are no Vakunta, there is no Golak, there is no Shivpuri or so and so, which have been told from our childhood days itself. There are only divinities,
Yeah.
only one divinity. There is nothing else.
Yes.
Only then
Yes.
in that
Yes.
in that case, Maharaj, there is no God, but then everything is God.
Yes.
My God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
So that's
That's
what the truth is. You will
yes.
experience in meditation.
Yes, I mean, it's mind-boggling concept, Maharaj. I mean, I'm sorry, please carry on. I'm sorry, I'm done. I'm done. It is very, very core thing. I'm sorry.
Uh, Namaste, Babaji.
Yes.
When I am trying to concentrate in the eyebrows, how can a thought appear? So if a thought appears, either I'm identifying with the thought, or if I would try to withdraw, once I realize, okay, I'm identifying with thought, try to withdraw, the thought also disappears, right? So there is no watching of the thought. So what do you mean watch the thoughts? So either thought is not there or I'm not watching it. Like,
No, when you watch means you do not analyze, because mind has a tendency to analyze to whatever it comes across. When a thought appears, mind tries to analyze that thought. Do not analyze that thought. Now, I am on the screen. This is the hand. I will ask you to just watch. You just watch. Don't think whether it is hand or whose hand, like that. That is what is watching means. So then the mind becomes quiet. When it doesn't make analyzation and judgments, then it becomes quiet. Then the hand also disappears.
okay, and then the new thought will come, will replace it. Like it'll keep on coming. The chain will keep on happening,
For
just
some
like,
time. But if you
okay,
imagine, then it will keep on coming. Don't imagine that it will keep on coming. It
okay,
can stop. The more you stop, it will also stop. If it comes, don't worry. Again, you do the same trick. You just remain quiet. Garbage is being thrown out. Like that law, since time immemorial, mind has acquired this habit. That's why for some time, this role will go on and on. Don't lose heart. Keep on trying, keep on trying. It will all go away one day. Have that faith.
thank you.
Baba, when you say just watch the thought, you used to say this years ago, you don't say it as much anymore, but you mean just continue watching. Don't imagine anything. You don't try to actually watch the thought that you're having. You just continue to watch without imagining
Yeah.
anything.
You continue to watch means continue to remain quiet. Actually, that's the meaning. If you just watch, continue to watching, thoughts disappear, thought appear, thoughts disappear. You continue to watch. Then what happens? You continue to keep quiet because you are not recognizing the thought, you are not analyzing the thought, you are not making any judgment.
I have two more questions.
Okay,
Baba?
I'll take your last two questions.
Okay. So there's someone, she doesn't speak English well, so she wanted me to ask you this. She said my video was off during the initiation, meaning she was watching your video, but her video was off. Have I received Baba's initiation?
Yes, if you had heard me giving the instructions, you have received it. Have the faith and devotion. Practice.
So the last question, Baba, I don't know what samyama means. Samyama.
Samyama.
Okay, so
That is patience.
so he said samya, some kind of intention. Wait, hold on 1 second. To realize before we enter into samadhi, just before merging, is there any samyama that is helpful for moksha, or is patience all that is needed to be avoided? Is that clear? Was that clear? Do you want me to
I
read?
hope it is, the word is samyama.
Samyama.
Samyama, it is pronounced like that.
Samyama.
Yeah, that means patience.
Okay,
So
so patience, some kind of intention. If you have patience, is some kind of intention to realize before we enter into samadhi, just before the merger. Is there any samyama that is helpful for moksha?
Yeah, definitely. You will be able to hold on to that. When you have patience, you won't give up. So then the final merger happens. Till then, you hold on. One moment, Amba has a comment on this.
This is samyama, which is called dharana. Dharana and samyama is the same thing. In Patanjali, it calls before dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. But in just recently, Sadhguru has given a name. Jaggi Vasudev have given a name samyama. Means same thing, which is we call dharana. So it's the same thing.
It is many in northern India pronounce sanyama, some pronounce as samyama, but the meaning is patience. When you have patience, you are able to hold on. That is what samyama and dharana. Dharana is hold on. You are able to hold on to that. So that's what I'm explaining. So when you have patience, you are able to hold on to that. When I have patience, I am able to hold on to your question. So wonderful.
Babaji, there's one more question in the chat. Can we take that?
Okay, we'll take this last.
And a comment on that, I think the question was, if you have an intention, a mental intention in your mind while you're performing or prior to performing samyama, will it help manifest that intention?
If you have the sanyama and if you want something to manifest, then in your imagination only that will manifest.
Okay. So the question in the chat is dhyana, meditation, the ending of experience?
Yes, it ends all experiences, thus taking you to your real self.
Okay. Thank you, Baba, for being with us and everyone else too.
So I will go to the gallery to say bye-bye to everybody.